Hi everybody, Mitch here. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to talk about quantum computing, and I don't want everybody to become a geek, so I'm not going to explain to you how quantum computing works. If you're interested in that, there's plenty of material out on YouTube. But there are some implications for the average person on quantum computing. The number one implication is that encryption as a protection mechanism as currently implemented is basically going to go away. Now, what we're hoping is that quantum computing takes a little while to get here and people upgrade their infrastructure to go support that, but I'm not counting on that happening, unfortunately. So I think we're going to see a massive attack, and who's going to do the attacks are going to be the governments, right? Whether it's the United States government or China government or Russia government, North Korea government. Probably less likely because the technology is expensive, but they're all working on it. And fundamentally, there's a few things that quantum computing is good for. One of them is really, really complex math problems, which is what encryption is. It's a really complex math problem. So if you have a quantum computer, and we don't think at this point that there are any full-blown, really production-ready at scale quantum computers today. Once you got one, then everything that you've collected historically is fair game. And we do know that we know about our government. We're not so sure about the other, but I assume the other governments are doing the same thing. So the NSA has built this massive data center in Utah where they are storing all this encrypted communications that they're intercepting, with the hope that quantum computing is going to come and they're going to be able to decrypt this stuff and figure out what's useful and what's not useful. The amount of data that they are vacuuming up is so massive that they say they can only keep a couple of days worth of data before they have to triage it and decide what they're going to keep and what they're going to throw away, because they just can't keep it all, and that does make sense. So if we assume that China and Russia and other countries are doing the same thing, and as well as our friends, Germany, France, whatever, UK, assume that. So, every time you send an encrypted email to somebody, there's, 10 copies being created, kind of funny, and stored by, 10 different governments, hoping that your comments about whatever, you had for breakfast is relevant, in a few years. Now the question becomes, well, when is quantum computing a reality? And the honest answer is we don't know. And unfortunately, we probably won't know until after it happens, because who are the most likely folks that are going to go off and create and buy and pay for quantum computing? Well, it's going to be the spy agencies. And so those guys have no motivation to tell you that, that thing that you think is encrypted, that is safe, it's not. So we'll only hear about that accidentally. We won't hear about that intentionally. Now there'll be obviously the commercial guys, the Googles, the IBMs, those guys. Well, they're going to announce it because they want to toot their horn and sell stuff. So, for those guys, but are they going to be the leading end of the spear? No, I don't think so. I think they're going to be somewhere in the middle of that spear, maybe towards the back end of it. I don't know. So, it's going to happen long before we hear about it. Now, the only thing we can hope for, and I think it's reasonable that we go for it, is that, it's going to be hard to keep that secret. There's going to be a little while where, let's say it's us, be optimistic, can decrypt Chinese and Russian messages that are encrypted, and the world doesn't find out about it. But that just doesn't last for very long, as far as I can tell. So we shall see where that goes. But and unfortunately, as a consumer, there's not a lot that you can do. Things like multi-factor authentication help, because having one of the things they could decrypt, of course, would be your password. And if your password is the only thing that's protecting you, well, if they can decrypt it, then fundamentally there's nothing protecting you. So what you want to do is use multi-factor authentication. So just having your password is not sufficient. Updating your software to the most current version if you are of the tinfoil hat crowd, looking at software and seeing which software products at least say that they're quantum computing resistant or proof. So, as a consumer, that's about all you can do. Alternatively, you can store your secrets on a piece of paper. Go back to that, right? Store your secrets on a piece of paper and put it in a safe. At least the Russians can't easily get to it because that would require them breaking into your house. And if they're in Moscow, that's hard for them to do. So with that bit of joy, I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks for listening. And feel free to send comments about what you'd like to hear. Take care.